all the kings west of the Jordan, and the hills and foothills and along the Mediterranean sea coast north toward Lebanon, the Hittites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, Girgashites, and Jebusites got the news. They came together in a coalition to fight against Joshua and Israel under a single command. The people of Gibeon heard what Joshua had done to Jericho and Ai and cooked up a ruse. They posed as travelers, their donkeys loaded with patched sacks and mended wineskins, threadbare sandals on their feet, tattered clothes on their bodies, nothing but dry crusts and crumbs for food. They came to Joshua at Gilgal and spoke to the men of Israel. We've come from a far country, make a covenant with us. The men of Israel said to these Hivites, how do we know you aren't local people? How could we then make a covenant with you? They said to Joshua, we'll be your servants. Joshua said, who are you now? Where did you come from? They said, from a far off country, very far away. Your servants came because we'd heard such great things that God, your God, all those things he did in Egypt, and the two Amorite kings across the Jordan, King Sihon of Heshbon and King Og of Bashan, who ruled in Ashtaroth. Our leaders and everybody else in our country told us, pack up some food for the robe and go to meet them. Tell them we're your servants. Make a covenant with us. This bread was warm from the oven when we packed it and left to come and see you. Now look at it, crusts and crumbs, and our cracked and mended wineskins, good as new when we filled them, and our clothes and sandals in tatters from long, hard traveling. The men of Israel looked them over and accepted the evidence, but they didn't ask God about it. So Joshua made peace with them and formalized it with a covenant to guarantee their lives. The leaders of the congregation swore to it. And then, 3 days after making this covenant, they learned that they were next door neighbors who had been living there all along. The people of Israel broke camp and set out. 3 days later, they reached their towns, Gibeon, Kephirah, Beerioth, and Kirioth Jearim. But the people of Israel didn't attack them. The leaders of the congregation had given their word before the God of Israel, but the congregation was up in arms over their leaders. The leaders were united in their response to the congregation. We promised them in the presence of the God of Israel we can't lay a hand on them now, but we can do this. We will let them live so we don't get blamed for breaking our promise. Then the leaders continued, we'll let them live, but they will be woodcutters and water carriers for the entire congregation. And that's what happened. The leader's promise was kept. But Joshua called the Gibeonites together and said, why did you lie to us, telling us we live far, far away from you, when you're our next door neighbors? For that you are cursed. From now on it's menial labor for you, woodcutters and water carriers for the house of my God. They answered Joshua, we got the message loud and clear that God, your God, commanded through his servant Moses to give you the whole country and destroy everyone living in it. We were terrified because of you. That's why we did this. That's it. We're at your mercy. Whatever you decide is right for us. Do it. And that's what they did. Joshua delivered them from the power of the people of Israel, so they didn't kill them. But he made them woodcutters and water carriers for the congregation and for the altar of God at the place God chooses. They still are. Joshua chapter 10, the 5 kings. It wasn't long before my master Zedek, king of Jerusalem, heard that Joshua had taken Ai and destroyed it, and its king under a holy curse, just as he had done to Jericho and to its king. And also he learned that the people of Gibeon had come to terms with Israel and were living as neighbors. He and his people were alarmed. Gibeon was a big city, as big as any with the king and bigger than Ai, and all its men were seasoned fighters. Adonai-Zedek, king of Jerusalem, sent word to Hoham, king of Hebron, Piram, king of Jarmuth, Japhia, king of Lachish, and Deber, king of Eglon. Come and help me. Let's attack Gibeon. They've joined up with Joshua and the people of Israel. So the 5 Amorite western kings, the king of Jerusalem, the king of Hebron, the king of Jarmuth, the king of Lachish, and the king of Eglon, combined their armies and set out to attack Gibeon. The men of Gibeon sent word to Joshua camped at Gilgal. Don't let us come down now. Come up here quickly. Save us. Help us. All the Amorite kings who live up in the hills have ganged up on us. So Joshua set out from Gilgal, his whole army with him, all those tough soldiers. God told him, don't give them a second thought. I put them under your thumb. Not one of them will stand up to you. Joshua marched all night from Gilgal and took them by total surprise. God threw them into total confusion before Israel. A major victory at Gibeon. Israel chased them along the ridge to Beth Horon and fought them all the way down to Azekah and Makkedah as they ran from the people of Israel, down from the Beth Horon ridge and all the way to Azekah. God pitched huge stones on them out of the sky, and many died. More died from the hailstones than the people of Israel killed with the sword. The day God gave the Amorites up to Israel, Joshua spoke to God with all Israel listening. Stop, sun, over Gibeon. Halt, moon, over Ajalon Valley. And the sun stopped. Moon stood stuck still until he defeated his enemies. You can find this written in the book of Jasher. The sun stopped in its tracks in mid-sky, just sat there all day. There's never been a day like that before or since. God took orders from a human voice. Truly, God fought for Israel. Then Joshua returned, all Israel with him, to the camp at Gilgal. Meanwhile, the 5 kings had hidden at the cave of Makkedah. Joshua was told, the 5 kings have been found, hidden in the cave at Makkedah. Joshua said, roll big stones against the mouth of the cave and post guards to keep watch. But don't you hang around. Go after your enemies. Cut off their retreat. Don't let them back into their cities. God has given them to you. Joshua and the people of Israel then finished them off. Total devastation. Only a few got away to the fortified towns. The whole army then returned intact to the camp and to Joshua at Makkedah. There was no criticism that day from the people of Israel. Then Joshua said, open the mouth of the cave and bring me those 5 kings. They did it. They brought him the 5 kings from the cave, the king of Jerusalem, the king of Hebron, the king of Jarmuth, the king of Lachish, and the king of Eglon. When they had put them all there in front of Joshua, he called up the army and told the field commanders who had been with him, come here, put your feet on the necks of these kings. They stepped up and put their feet on their necks. Joshua told them, don't hold back, don't be timid, be strong, be confident. This is what God will do to all your enemies when you fight them. Then Joshua struck and killed the kings. He hung them on 5 trees where they remained until evening. At sunset, Joshua gave the command. They took them down from the trees and threw them into the cave where they were hidden. They put large stones at the mouth of the cave. The kings are still in there. No survivors. That same day, Joshua captured Makkedah, a massacre that included the king. He carried out the holy curse. No survivors. Makkedah's king got the same treatment as Jericho's king. Joshua, all Israel with him, moved on from Makkedah to Libnah and fought against Libnah. God gave Libnah to Israel. They captured city and king and massacred the lot. No survivors. Libnah's king got the same treatment as Jericho's king. Joshua, all Israel with him, moved on from Libnah to Lachish. He set up camp nearby and attacked. God gave Lachish to Israel. Israel took it in 2 days and killed everyone. He carried out the holy curse, the same as with Libnah. Horam, king of Gezer, arrived to help Lachish. Joshua attacked him and his army until there was nothing left of them. No survivors. Joshua, all Israel with him, moved on from Lachish to Eglon. They set up camp and attacked. They captured it and killed everyone, carrying out the holy curse, the same as they had done with Lachish. Joshua, all Israel with him, went up from Eglon to Hebron. He attacked and captured it. They killed everyone, including its king and its villages and their people. No survivors, the same as with Eglon. They carried out the holy curse on city and people. Then Joshua, all Israel with him, turned toward Debir and attacked it. He captured it, its king and its villages. They killed everyone. They put everyone and everything under the holy curse. No survivors. Debir and its king got the same treatment as Hebron and its king and Libnah and its king. Joshua took the whole country, hills, deserts, foothills, and mountain slopes, including all kings. He left no survivors. He carried out the holy curse on everything that breathed, just as God, the God of Israel, had commanded. Joshua's conquest stretched from Kadesh Barnea to Gaza and from the entire region of Goshen to Gibeon. Joshua took all these kings and their lands in a single campaign because God, the God of Israel, fought for Israel. Then Joshua, all Israel with him, went back to the camp at Gilgal. No ads. We paid for no ads. Joshua chapter 11. That threw me off. 5 Kings. Joshua chapter 11, verse 1. When Jabin, king of Hazor, heard of all this, he sent word to Jobab, king of Madon, to the king of Shimron, to the king of Asaph, to all the kings in the northern mountains, to the kings in the valley south of Kinneret, to the kings in the western foothills, and Nephador, to the Canaanites, both east and west, to the Amorites, Hittites, Perizzites, and Jebusites in the hill country, and to the Hivites below Hermon in the region of Mizpah. They came out in full force, all their troops massed together, a huge army, in number like sand on an ocean beach, to say nothing of all the horses and chariots. All these kings met and set up camp together at the waters of Merom, ready to fight against Israel. God said to Joshua, don't worry about them. This time tomorrow, I'll hand them over to Israel, all dead. You'll hamstring their horses. You'll set fire to their chariots. Joshua, his entire army with him, took them by surprise, falling on them at the waters of Merom. God gave them to Israel, who struck and chased them all the way to Greater Sidon, to Misrephoth Maim, and then to the valley of Mizpah on the east. No survivors. Joshua treated them following God's instruction. He hamstrung their horses. He burned up their chariots. Then Joshua came back and took Hazor, killing its king. Early on, Hazor had been head of all these kingdoms. They killed every person there, carrying out the holy curse. Not a breath of life left anywhere. Then he burned down Hazor. Joshua captured and massacred all the royal towns with their kings, the holy curse commanded by Moses, the servant of God. But Israel didn't burn the cities that were built on mounds except for Hazor. Joshua did burn down Hazor. The people of Israel plundered all the loot, including the cattle from these towns for themselves. But they killed the people. Total destruction. They left nothing human that breathed. Just as God commanded his servant Moses, so Moses commanded Joshua, and Joshua did it. He didn't leave incomplete one thing that God had commanded Moses. Joshua took the whole country, the mountains, the southern desert, all of Goshen, the foothills, the valley, the Arabah, and the Israel mountains with their foothills, from Mount Halak, which towers over the region of Seir, all the way down to Baal Gad in the valley of Lebanon in the shadows of Mount Hermon. He captured their kings and then killed them. Joshua fought against these kings for a long time. Not one town made peace with the people of Israel, with the one exception of the Hivites who lived in Gibeon. Israel fought and took all the rest. It was God's idea that they would stubbornly fight the Israelites so he could put them under the holy curse without mercy. That way he could destroy them just as God had commanded Moses. Joshua came out at that time also to the root out the Anakim from the hills, from Hebron, from Debir, from Anab, from the mountains of Judah, and from the mountains of Israel. Joshua carried out the holy curse on them in their cities. No Anakim were left in the land of the people of Israel except in Gaza, Gath, and Ashdod. There were a few left there. Joshua took the whole region. He did everything that God had told Moses. Then he parceled it out as an inheritance to Israel according to their tribes, and Israel had rest from war. Joshua chapter 12, the defeated kings. These are the kings that the people of Israel defeated and whose land they took on the east of the Jordan, from the Arnon Gorge to Mount Hermon, with the whole eastern side of the Arabah Valley. Sihon, king of the Amorites, who reigned from Heshbon. His rule extended from Ariar, which sits at the edge of the Arnon Gorge, from the middle of the gorge and over half of Gilead to the gorge of the Jabbok River, which is the border of the Ammonites. His rule included the eastern Arabah Valley from the Sea of Kinneret to the Arabah Sea, the Salt Sea, eastward toward Beth Jeshimoth, and southward to the slopes of Pisgah. And Og, king of Bashan, one of the last of the Rephaim, who reigned from Ashtaroth and Edrei. His rule extended from Mount Hermon and Silicah over the whole of Bashan to the order of the Gerishites and the Maacathites, the other half of Gilead, to the border of Sihon, king of Heshbon. Moses, the servant of God, and the people of Israel defeated them. And Moses, the servant of God, gave this land as an inheritance to the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh. And these are the kings of the land that Joshua and the people of Israel defeated in the country west of the Jordan, from Baal Gad in the valley of Lebanon, south to Mount Halak, which towers over Seir. Joshua gave this land to the tribes of Israel as a possession according to their divisions. Lands in the mountains, the western foothills, and the Arabah Valley, on the slopes and in the wilderness and the Negev desert, lands on which Hittites, Amorites, and Canaanites, and Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites had lived. The kings were the king of Jericho, 1. The king of Ai near Bethel, 1. The king of Jerusalem, 1. The king of Hebron, 1. The king of Jarmuth, 1. The king of Lachish, 1. The king of Eglon, 1. The king of Gezer, 1. The king of Debir, 1. The king of Geder, 1. The king of Hormah, 1. The king of Arad, 1. The king of Libnah, 1. The king of Ajalon, 1. The king of Makkedah, 1. The king of Bethel, 1. The king of Tappuah, 1. The king of Hepher, 1. The king of Aphak, 1. The king of Lasharon, 1. The king of Madon, 1. The king of Hazar, 1. The king of Shimron Meron, 1. The king of Atsaph, 1. The king of Tanakh, 1. The king of Megiddo, 1. The king of Kedesh, 1. The king of Jokmeam in Carmel, 1. The king of Dor, Naphor Dor, 1. The king of Goyim in Gilgal, 1. The king of Tirzah, 1. A total of 31 kings. Joshua chapter 13, receiving the land. When Joshua had reached a venerable age, God said to him, "You've had a good long life, but there is a lot of land still to be taken. This is the land that remains, all the districts of the Philistines and Gershurites, the land from the Shihar River east of Egypt to the border of Ekron up north, Canaanite country. There were 5 Philistine tyrants in Gaza, in Ashdod, in Ashkelon, in Gath, in Ekron, also the Avim from the south, all the Canaanite land from Arah belonging to the Sidonians, to Aphak at the Amorite border, the country of the Gebalites, all Lebanon eastward from Baal Gad in the shadow of Mount Hermon to the entrance of Hamath, all who live in the mountains from Lebanon to Mizrath Maim, all the Sidonians. I myself will drive them out before the people of Israel. All you have to do is allot this land to Israel as an inheritance, as I've instructed you. Do it now. Allot this land as inheritance to the 9 tribes and the half-tribe of Manasseh. Land east of the Jordan. The other half-tribe of Manasseh with the Reubenites and the Gadites had been given their inheritance by Moses on the other side of the Jordan eastward. Moses, the servant of God, gave it to them. This land extended from Oriar at the edge of the Arnon Gorge and the city in the middle of the valley, taking in the entire tableland of Medeba as far as Dibon, and all the towns of Sihon, king of the Amorites, who ruled from Heshbon, and out to the border of the Ammonites. It also included Gilead, the country of the people of Geshur and Makah, all of Mount Hermon and all of Bashan as far as Selika, the whole kingdom of Og and Bashan, who reigned in Ashtaroth and Edrei. He was one of the last survivors of the Rephaim. Moses had defeated them and taken their land. The people of Israel did drive out the Gershurites and the Makathites. They're still there, living in Israel. Levi was the only tribe that did not receive an inheritance. The fire gift offerings to God, the God of Israel, are their inheritance, just as he told them. Reuben. To the tribe of Reuben, clan by clan, Moses gave the land from Oriar at the edge of the Arnon Gorge and the town in the middle of the valley, including the tableland around Medeba, Heshbon on the tableland with all its town, Dibon, Bamoth Baal, Beth Baal Meon, Jahaz, Kedemoth, Maphath, Kirithium, Sibnah, Sarah Shahar on Valley Mountain, Beth Peor, the slopes of Pisgah, Beth Shemoth, and all the cities of the tableland, the whole kingdom of Sihon, king of the Amorites, who ruled at Heshbon, whom Moses put to death along with the princes of Midian, Evi, Rechem, Zur, Hur, and Reba, who lived in that country, all puppets of Sihon. In addition to those killed in battle, Balaam, son of Beor, the soothsayer, was put to death by the people of Israel. The boundary for the Reubenites was the bank of the Jordan River. This was the inheritance of the Reubenites, their villages and cities, according to their clans. Gad. To the tribe of Gad, clan by clan, Moses gave the territory of Jazer, and all the towns of Gilead and the half Ammonite country as far as Ariar near Rabbah, the land from Heshbon to Ramoth Mizpah and Bitanom, and from Hanaim to the region of Debir, and the valley, Beth Haram, Beth Nimrah, Succoth, and Zaphon, with the rest of the kingdoms of Sihon, king of Heshbon, the east of the Jordan, north to the end of the Sea of Kinneret. This was the inheritance of the Gadites, their cities and villages, clan by clan. Half-tribe of Manasseh. To the half-tribe of Manasseh, clan by clan, Moses gave the land stretching out from Mahanaim, all of Bashan, which is the entire kingdom of Og, king of Bashan, and all the settlements of Jaar in Bashan, 60 towns in all. Half of Gilead, which Ashtaroth and Edrei, the royal cities of Og and Bashan, belonged to the descendants of Machir, a son of Manasseh. In other words, the half-tribe of the children of Machir, for their clans. This is the inheritance that Moses gave out when he was on the plains of Moab, across the Jordan, east of Jericho. But Moses gave no inheritance to the tribe of Levi. God, the God of Israel, is their inheritance, just as he told them. Joshua chapter 14, land west of the Jordan. Here are the inheritance allotments that the people of Israel received in the land of Canaan. Eleazar the priest, Joshua son of Nun, and the heads of the family clans made the allotments. Each inheritance was assigned by lot to the 9.5 tribes, just as God had commanded Moses. Moses had given the 2.5 tribes their inheritance east of the Jordan, but hadn't given an inheritance to the Levites as he had to the others, because the son of Joseph had become 2 tribes, Manasseh and Ephraim. They gave no allotment to the Levites, but they did give them cities to live in with pasture rights for their flocks and herds. The people of Israel followed through exactly as God had commanded Moses. They apportioned the land. Caleb. The people of Judah came to Joshua at Gilgal. Caleb, son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, spoke. You remember what God said to Moses, the man of God, concerning you and me back at Kadesh Barnea. I was 40 years old when Moses, the servant of God, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to spy out the land, and I brought back an honest and accurate report. My companions who went with me discouraged the people, but I stuck to my guns, totally with God my God. That was the day that Moses solemnly promised, the land on which your feet have walked will be your inheritance, you and your children forever. Yes, you have lived totally for God. Now look at me. God has kept me alive as he promised. It's now 45 years since God spoke this word to Moses, years in which Israel wandered in the wilderness. And here I am today, 85 years old. I'm as strong as I was the day Moses sent me out. I'm as strong as ever in battle, whether coming or going. So give me this hill country that God promised me. You yourself heard the report that the Anakim were there in their great fortress cities. If God goes with me, I will drive them out, just as God said. Joshua blessed him. He gave Hebron to Caleb, son of Jephunneh, as an inheritance. Hebron belongs to Caleb, son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, still today. because he gave himself totally to God, the God of Israel. The name of Heshbon used to be Kiriath Arba, named after Arba, the greatest man among the Anakim. And the land had rest from war. Joshua chapter 15, Judah. The lot for the people of Judah, their clans extended south to the border of Edom, to the wilderness of Zin in the extreme south. The southern border ran from the tip of the Salt Sea south of the Tongue. It ran southward from Scorpion's Pass, went around Zin, and just south of Kadesh Barnea. Then it ran past Hezron, ascended to Ador, and curved around to Karka. From there it passed along to Asmon, came out at the brook of Egypt, ending at the sea. This is the southern boundary. The eastern boundary, the Salt Sea, up to the mouth of the Jordan. The northern boundary started at the shallows of the sea at the mouth of the Jordan, went up to Beth Hoglah, and around to the north of Beth Arabah, and to the stone of Bohan, son of Reuben. The border then descended to Debir from Trouble Valley and turned north toward Gilgal, which lies opposite Red Pass, just south of the gorge. The border then followed the waters of En Shemesh and ended at En Regel. The border followed the valley of Ben Hinnom along the southern slope of the Jebusite Ridge, that is Jerusalem. It descended to the top of the mountain opposite Hinnom Valley on the west, at the northern end of Rephaim Valley. The border then took a turn at the top of the mountain to the spring, the waters of Nephtoah, and followed the valley out to Mount Ephron, turned towards Balah, that is Kiriath Jearim, took another turn west of Balah to Mount Seir, curved around to the northern shoulder of Mount Jearim, that is Kesalon, descended to Beth Shemesh and crossed to Timnah. The border then went north to the ridge of Ekron, turned toward Shikharon, passed along to Mount Bela, and came out at Jabneel. The border ended at the sea. The western border, the coastline of the Great Sea. This is the boundary around the people of Judah for their clans. Joshua gave Caleb, son of Jephunneh, a section among the people of Judah, according to God's command. He gave him Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron. Arba was the ancestor of Anak. Caleb drove out 3 Anakim from Hebron, Shishai, Ahinam, and Talmai, all descendants of Anak. He marched from up there against the people of Debir. Debir used to be called Kiriath Sefer. Caleb said, "Whoever attacks Kiriath Sefer and takes it, I'll give my daughter Achsah to him as his wife." Othniel, son of Kenaz, Caleb's brother, took it. So Caleb gave him his daughter Asla as his wife. When she arrived, she got him to ask for farmland from her father. As she dismounted from her donkey, Caleb asked her, "What would you like?" She said, "Give me a marriage gift. You've given me desert land, now give me pools of water." And he gave her the upper and lower pools. This is the inheritance of the tribe of the people of Judah, clan by clan. The southern towns of the tribe of Judah in the Negev were near the boundary of Edom: Kabzeel, Eder, Jagur, Kenah, Dimanoah, Adada, Kedesh, Hazar, Ithnan, Ziph, Telam, Bela, Hazar Hatata, Kiriath Hezron, that is Hazar, Amam, Shema, Molada, Hazar Gada, Heshmon, Beth Pelet, Hazar Shuel, Beersheba, Bisuatheth, Bala, Ezem, Elotad, Kisel, Hormah, Ziklag, Madmama, Sansana, Laboth, Shilham, Ayan, Renam, a total of 29 towns and their villages. In Shephelah, the western foothills, there were Eshtaol, Zorah, Ashna, Zana, and Ganam, Tapua, Enam, Jarmuth, Adulam, Soko, Ezekah, Shariam, Aditham, and Gedera, or Gederathaim, 14 towns and their villages. Zenan, Hadashah, Migdal-gad, Dilian, Mizpah, Joktheel, Lachish, Baskath, Eglon, Kaban, Lathmas, Kitlash, Gedorah, Beth Dagon, Naamah, and Makkedah, 16 towns and their villages. Libnah, Ether, Ashan, Iphthah, Ashna, Nezib, Kiliah, Akzib, and Merishah, 9 towns and their villages. Ekron with its town and villages, from Ekron west to the sea, all that bordered Ashdod with its villages, Ashdod with its towns and villages, Gaza with its town and villages, all the way to the brook of Egypt. The Great Sea is the western border. In the hill country, Shamir, Jatir, Sokah, Dana, Kiriath Sana, that is Debir, Anab, Ishtuma, Anim, Goshen, Holon, and Giloah, 11 towns and their villages. Ereb, Duma, Eshan, Janim, Beth Tupah, Aphekah, Humta, Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, and Ziar, 9 towns and their villages. Mayan, Carmel, Ziph, Judah, Jezreel, Zakdim, Zanoah, Cain, Gibeah, and Timnah, 10 towns and their villages. Hauhu, Beth Zur, Gedor, Marath, Beth Anath, and Ekatan, 6 towns and their villages. Kiriath Baal, that is Kiriath Jearim, and Rabbah, 2 towns and their villages. In the wilderness, Beth Araba, Midden, Sekaka, Nebshan, the city of salt, and En-gedi, 6 towns and their villages. The people of Judah couldn't get rid of the Jebusites who lived in Jerusalem. The Jebusites stayed put, living alongside the people of Judah. They are still living there in Jerusalem. This is the word of the Lord.